Hello, the story of the film we are going to tell today is called Tokyo Ghoul from 2017. Are you ready? So let's go. Inside a restaurant, Hyde shows the news through his cell phone to his friend Kaneki. The news talks about ghoul activities near the city, but Kaneki is too focused on his reading to pay attention to the news. Kaneki asks if Hyde has ever seen a ghoul, and he replies that he has never seen one. He also mentions that ghouls look like humans and that they might be around. Seconds later, the girl Kaneki likes, named Rise, arrives at the location. His friend Hyde tries to convince him to invite the girl of his dreams to go out on the same day, but Kaneki rejects his friend's advice, saying that he will go after finishing reading the book. Hyde doesn't accept this decision and tries to take Kaneki's book, which ends up falling in front of the girl he likes. She picks up the book and hands it to him with a smile on her face, leaving the guy completely embarrassed. The next day, Kaneki has a scheduled meeting with Rise at a restaurant where they discuss some famous authors of stories they share the same taste in. After a few seconds of silence between them, the boy begins to tremble so much that it seems he might faint from anxiety in front of the girl. He asks why she doesn't want to eat, and she says she hasn't been eating lately. While the two walk through a somewhat dark area, Rise stops with Kaneki and declares her feelings for him, saying that she has liked him for a long time and then hugs him. The boy doesn't waste time and hugs her back. But to the young man's misfortune, the girl is possessed and bites his neck with all her strength. He manages to break free and falls to the ground, witnessing the bizarre scene of the girl savoring his flesh right in front of him. Her eyes change color to red. Kaneki tries to escape as best as he can, but due to the wound, he has a lot of difficulties. To make matters worse, he is cornered, and bizarre limbs begin to emerge from the girl. Kaneki becomes completely desperate. After attempting to run away, the girl uses the limbs to pierce Kaneki's lower back, which goes through his belly. While he is agonizing, she starts kissing him, and without realizing it, she is crushed by several iron beams falling from the top of the building, hitting her directly, and Kaneki is thrown away. Kaneki manages to survive and is watching the news while recovering in the hospital. Some agents gather to investigate a man named Asaki Fueguchi, who was responsible for the death of a police officer. After several days of recovery, Kaneki and Hyde meet, and the two celebrate his return at a restaurant. After his friend insists for Kaneki to eat, the boy tries to have his meal but vomits everything. I think you've already noticed by now, Kaneki is now a ghoul. At home, he tries to eat everything in his fridge but cannot feed on anything. While attempting to eat something, on the TV news, a scientist explains why ghouls cannot feed on the same food as a human being. He says that the composition of ghouls' tongues is different from humans, also stating that ghouls can only extract nutrients from human beings. Entering the bathroom, Kaneki notices that his eye is red, like the eyes of ghouls. Hungry through the streets of Tokyo, Kaneki sees the crowd as a feast to feed on. Then he runs into an alley where he finds another ghoul feeding. The stranger offers food to Kaneki, who, before saying anything, has to dodge the stranger's head, which was ripped off by another ghoul claiming to be the owner of that territory. Holding Kaneki by the neck against the wall, the supposed territory owner makes it clear that he gets very annoyed when someone enters his area. Another ghoul, now a woman, appears, saying that this territory is not his, and they engage in a fight. After taking a kick that sends him flying, the bespectacled ghoul cowardly flees. The girl offers an arm to Kaneki, but he runs away without saying anything. At home, Kaneki wakes up with his stomach growling loudly and meets the ghoul girl from the previous night again. He asks her for something to eat, but she refuses to help and tells him to go hunt his own food. The owner of the restaurant where the girl works, who is also a ghoul, appears and says that the policy of his restaurant is always to help other ghouls. Inside the ghoul's property, Kaneki is offered coffee, and while drinking it, the ghoul reveals that ghouls can drink coffee without any problems, and the beverage can deceive hunger for a while. The man then gives a piece of meat for the boy to eat when he feels very hungry. At home, Kaneki tries to throw the packaged meat in the trash, but cannot resist. When he finally decides to eat, someone knocks on the door. It's his friend Hyde. He only checks when he leaves and picks up the bag left by his friend on the doorknob. Kaneki takes the letter from the bag and reads it, where Hyde asks a favor from Kaneki at the university, and the payment is a chocolate bun. After thinking for a moment, Kaneki decides to throw the meat he received from the ghoul man in the trash. In a clothing store, an agent investigating the ghoul responsible for the police officer's death asks the shopkeeper to provide the security camera footage. The investigators suspect that a ghoul had made a purchase in this store. The next morning, Kaneki and Hyde meet at the university. Young Kaneki has a bandage over his left eye, claiming it's due to an eye infection. Hyde takes Kaneki to his boss Nishiki's room and pleads for Kaneki to join their club as a data organizer. Upon opening the door, Nishiki is seen fooling around with his girlfriend, revealing that he is the same person who encountered Kaneki in the alley a few days ago. While enjoying the taiyaki given by Hyde, Nishiki introduces himself as a pharmacy mentor. After chatting for a while, Hyde invites the three of them to grab a bite. However, when Hyde turns away, Nishiki buries his head in the table, instantly passes out. Nishiki vomits the entire taiyaki, claiming it tasted horrible. Attempting to defend his friend, Kaneki receives a powerful kick that sends him flying. Kaneki grabs an iron golf club and hits Nishiki directly, but the blow has no effect on the psychotic ghoul, and he laughs off the attack. Another member emerges from Nishiki's back, and he throws Kaneki against the wall. After taking a severe beating, Hyde uses his last strength to try to stop Nishiki, but it proves futile, leaving Nishiki even angrier. He grabs Hyde by the head to finish him off, but just as he's about to kill Hyde, Kaneki awakens his power and slices off one of Nishiki's limbs. Kaneki then rises, and his additional limbs are revealed on his back. The two engage in a fight, but it's clear that Kaneki is more powerful and ends up massacring Nishiki with his extra limbs. Nishiki attempts to escape through the door, but Kaneki closes it with his extra limbs and impales Nishiki's back, piercing through his heart. Next, Kaneki tries to aid his friend Hyde, but ends up licking the blood on Hyde's face. Kaneki is completely out of control. Suddenly, Tuka, the ghoul girl, and Yomo, another ghoul, appear on the scene. They take Kaneki to their residence, and the boy wakes up startled. Tuka informs him that Nishiki managed to escape and will come back for revenge. Kaneki inquires about his friend, and Yomo tells him that he took Hyde to the hospital, where he is unconscious. Kaneki hurriedly gets up from the bed to check on his friend, but the three caution him that he can't. Yashimaru, the ghoul, reveals that Kaneki tried to feed on his friend. The next day, Kaneki is working in Yashimaru's restaurant, preparing coffee for two girls. Recognizing the book that the girl named Hinami is reading, Kaneki asks if she likes Sen Takatsuki, a horror novelist. However, the girl doesn't respond and moves away. Her mother explains that the girl has no friends and can't go to school. Enji Koma asks Kaneki if they look like ghouls, and Kaneki denies it. Enji Koma reveals that everyone in the restaurant is a ghoul. While Tuka is working, her friend Yuriko arrives with a pot of food for Tuka. Initially refusing, Tuka decides to eat after seeing her friend disappointed. However, it's the type of food ghouls dislike the most. Trying to help Tuka, Kaneki comments that the smell is delicious and asks for some. Tuka instructs him to fetch coffee beans from the room upstairs. Without knocking, Kaneki opens the door and is terrified because inside the room, Hinami is feeding. He quickly closes the door. In the bathroom, Tuka is vomiting all the food she ate with her friend. Everyone gathers to discuss the CCG, Ghoul investigator agents. They suspect that the agents are after Hinami and her mother, Ryoko. Enji Koma decides to shelter both of them and advises them to go out as little as possible until they are relocated. The next day, Kaneki and Tuka meet Yuta, one of the main members of the secret ghoul organization called the Clowns and the creator of customized masks for ghouls. Yuta quickly seats Kaneki in a chair and begins thinking of a mask that suits him. He offers eyes to Kaneki, but the boy declines, and Yuta eats them alone. While reading a book, Hinami approaches Kaneki and asks for help with a book she finds difficult. As she is leaving, she asks Kaneki for a favor to accompany her to her father's grave. She wants to leave the last coffee beans her father loved. Kaneki agrees to go alone since the CCG agents don't know his face. While walking to Hinami's father's grave, a CCG agent is already in a car, monitoring the area. As Kaneki leaves the coffee beans, the agent watches from behind the bushes. Once Kaneki departs, the agent calls Kotaro Amon, an intelligent detective, to the location. Amon asks where the boy went, and the agent says it wasn't any of the women they were looking for. Amon scolds him, stating that in this world, justice and ethics don't combat evil. Afterward, he starts digging up the grave and finds a box. Upon opening it, he discovers a mask. The next day, at the cafe, Hinami and her mother bid farewell to everyone. While walking, it starts to rain, and Hinami and her mother take shelter under a bridge. As they converse, Kotaro appears from the shadows, accompanied by his partner Kuriomato, who shows the mask of Hinami's father, Mr. Asaki Fueguchi, inside a bag. Ryoko orders Hinami to run as fast as possible from that place and then arms herself with her ghoul limbs. As Hinami runs, she encounters Kaneki, who was looking for them to deliver the umbrellas. Kaneki is swiftly taken by Hinami to the spot where her mother stayed, but they stop and observe the situation from behind a car. Agent Kuriomato opens his briefcase and pulls out a quinqua, a weapon constructed from the Kagun organs of defeated ghouls. Kuriomato states that Mrs. Ryoko has only one more word, and for the last time, she speaks her daughter's name. Helpless, Hinami watches her mother being killed, unable to do anything. Kotaro and his investigation partner, Ippei Kusaba, are in a restaurant eating. Kusaba asks Kotaro to return to the headquarters and leave Hinami for him to investigate. However, Kotaro refuses, stating that, though she is young, she is still a threat, and he subtly mentions the young man with the eye patch, Kaneki. While walking near the train tracks, Kusaba pushes Kotaro to save him, and he ends up being impaled by an unidentified ghoul wearing a mask. As the unidentified ghoul attacks Kotaro, about to kill him, his partner Kuriomato intervenes with his quinqua, driving the ghoul away. Kaneki finds Tuka injured and rushes to help her, only to discover that the unidentified ghoul was Tuka. Kaneki approaches Mr. Yashimaru, suggesting that ghouls should unite and fight together to have a chance. However, Mr. Yashimaru dismisses this idea, pointing out the hundreds of investigators ready for such a confrontation. Kaneki expresses his desire to learn about the ghoul world and to train to fight, similar to Tuka. Later, while Tuka is training, Kaneki approaches her and asks her to teach him how to fight. Tuka starts attacking Kaneki, who initially can't defend himself and ends up with a broken finger. Kaneki continues to train, improving day by day, until he can finally fight on par with Tuka. Now, he is ready to face the CCG agents. Kotaro and Kuriomato plan to get Hinami's attention by using a part of her mother's body. While Hinami is sitting to eat, she senses a scent from afar. After Tuka and Kaneki check on her, they realize she is no longer in the room. Arriving at the location, Hinami finds her mother's arm covered with a white cloth. As she recalls her deceased mother, Kuriomato, the white-haired agent, appears behind her, and the girl runs. After running for several kilometers, Hinami reaches a riverbank with nowhere left to run. Kuriomato approaches Hinami, but Tuka appears just in time to defend the girl. Meanwhile, Kaneki finds Kotaro's car and flips it over, causing it to crash into a residence. Inside, Kotaro opens his briefcase and takes out his powerful quinqua. Just like Kotaro, Kuriomato draws his quinqua and begins to fight with Tuka. He manages to hit the young girl, causing her to fall wounded to the ground. She approaches a hole, and when she gets close to look inside, Kuriomato impales her, making her fall far away. Now equipped with Mrs. Kyoko's Kagun, Hinami cannot hold back her tears and breaks into deep sobs. Kaneki and Kotaro start their fight, and it seems evenly matched, but Kotaro lands a powerful blow that sends Kaneki flying. While the boy is down, Kotaro asks why Kusaba was eliminated. Kaneki says that Kotaro doesn't understand ghouls and charges at him to jump on his back, biting his neck, and then getting thrown away. Kaneki attacks again with his Kagun, and after taking several hits, the investigator is immobilized by the Kagun and thrown away. Back to Tuka, Kuriomato managed to immobilize her. While Tuka is on the ground, he begins to massacre her and asks if she has any last words. Just as he's about to finish Tuka, his arm is completely cut in half, split down the middle by Hinami's Kagun. She manages to knock down the investigator, and Tuka asks her to finish him, citing it as revenge for her parents' death. However, Hinami refuses to kill the investigator, and Tuka has to do it herself. She then finishes off Kuriomato. The fight between Kaneki and Kotaro continues fiercely, with Kaneki trying to stop Kotaro's superpowered quinqua. The investigator manages to put Kaneki at a disadvantage and throws him from a considerable height, but Kaneki is quick enough to pull Kotaro down with him. Kotaro lands on top of the car, unable to move, and Kaneki takes advantage of the opportunity to impale his hand, exhibiting strange behavior. After that, Kaneki leaves that place and quickly goes to help Tuka and Hinami. So that was our Tokyo Ghoul story. See you in our next story. Until then.